costing the state. I'm a believer in having the lowest budget possible. That's why over the last 10 years, when you look at our budget, it has declined 11% below inflation and population growth. I'm proud of the fact that I've cut taxes 54 times for a total of almost $16 billion. I'm glad of the fact that I have cut and consolidated state agencies some 57 times. I'm glad of the fact that I've kept spending low. Ever since I've come into the state of Texas as Lieutenant Governor, our state's been on a roll because I've focused on doing the least possible and providing the services for the people of Texas.
Okay, so let me get back to the question. On what principle of liberty, Governor Dewhurst, on what principle of liberty then? You just said that there is no provision in the United States Constitution for this type of spending by the federal government. There's no provision in the state constitution that calls this type of spending a core function of state government. So on what principle of liberty do you rest your support of these?
The principle, Joanne, is that the core principle is to protect the good of the state of Texas, the well-being of the people of Texas, to make sure that we have enough revenues in the state to pay for our public schools. We have an obligation to pay for our public schools. We have an obligation to pay for our public universities. We have an obligation to pay for our road building. We have an obligation to pay our Medicaid. And in order to keep this state growing, these programs, and I am not a large supporter of these programs, but these programs are intended to make the state of Texas competitive against other states so that at least we have a seat at the table. We're competitive to bring in companies that will locate here, invest, and create jobs. That's what I've been working on over the last 10 years, to create the best business climate in the country, right here in Texas, to make it irresistible for companies to come in and invest.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Rivera, when I do a redirect on a candidate, give them 30 seconds, please. Thank you. Okay, and I'm sorry, Dale, I can't read that. Mr. Staples, would you please ask your question to Governor Dewhurst?
The Emerging Technology Fund and the Enterprise Fund has received criticisms from taxpayers who feel like their tax dollars are being used to compete against them, and they're the ones paying the tax dollars to begin with. As a result of that, I've come to believe that government does not need to be in the business of picking winners and losers through this program. I think our better approach would be to lower our business tax to where that is the welcoming format to bring jobs into Texas so they know they're going to be treated fairly and fairly. And in light of that, wouldn't it be more fair, rather than putting these funds up that ends up picking winners and losers, to phase those out, lower our business tax, and to make a better business environment altogether?
Well, Commissioner, first of all, as you know perfectly well, those programs don't pick winners and losers. And you were supportive of the program when it was put into place and helped vote for it back in 2003. The way I see it is that this is a program in which the federal government should have no program like Solyndra. There is no reason for the federal government to be picking winners and losers. In this program, it is a competitive grant, and the companies that will come in and invest and create jobs, the state makes money on that. On the Enterprise Fund, that the state makes money, and the amount of the grant is calculated on how many jobs are made and a guarantee by the company. So the state makes money on it. It's an investment. On the Technology Fund, and I'm not trying to be an apologist for either one of these. You're asking me a question and I'm answering. But on the Technology Fund, these are applications to bring in technology and to be able to create new jobs here in the state.
Mr. Patterson?
I have a procedural question. I feel like in the class, do I refer to you as Mrs. Fleming or Joanne?
You know what, Mr. Patterson? Joanne or Mrs. Fleming is probably the nicest thing I get called sometimes.
Okay.
You make yourself feel comfortable. Either way would be fine with me.
Well, Governor Dewhurst, the question was posed on the Economic Emerging Technology Fund and those, but those are chump change when you look at some of the other things we do with state dollars. And I would like to submit that the Major Events Trust Fund, which committed $250 million unlawfully, I might add, for the Formula One track for $25 million a year for 10 years for the licensing fee to put a racetrack in Austin. Not only did they do a $250 million forward commitment of future revenues that our comptroller made that commitment, not only that, they bought a Jumbotron for the stadium in Dallas, they bought a Jumbotron for the stadium here.
Mr. Patterson, I'm sorry, but get to your question. Your time is up for asking the question.
Okay.
So
do you
point and
agree?
ask him the question.
The question is, do you not think that even that the Major Events Trust Fund is a more egregious waste of taxpayer dollars than some of the things that are mentioned, at least in dollar amount?
Commissioner Patterson, I totally agree. I totally agree. The enterprise fund was designed to bring in companies and jobs that will invest, and where people will create investments. You'll have additional revenue from sales tax so we can pay the basic functions of government, our public schools, our universities, and our road building, etc. But the Major Events Fund has been, I think, misused. The Jumbotron at the stadiums is a ridiculous example of that. And I couldn't understand it when I first saw it, and I still don't understand it.
Senator Patrick, you have a question?
I do, thank you. Governor, we're talking about the budget. Why the Legislative Budget Board, as I said in my opening remarks, helps shape the budget through the interim period until we get to session in January. It's 4 members plus yourself in the Senate. You've had 2 liberal Democrats on that Budget Board committee that helps shape the budget. We have 19 Republicans in the Senate, 13 that I would classify as strong conservatives. They are not on that committee. Why are you appointing liberal Democrats to help shape the budget for 18 months before we get there, while good conservatives sit on the sidelines?
Because, Senator, I'm not. The budget is shaped by my office working with the chairman of Senate Finance, Tommy Williams, who's a strong conservative from Montgomery County. It's shaped by the people that both Senator Williams and I have confidence in, who are conservatives. Our conservatives, Jane Nelson, our conservatives, yourself, I put you on Senate Finance.
I'm talking about the Budget Board. I'm talking about the
The
Legislative
Budget Board, Senator, did not meet during the interim.
So they did their job.
The Budget Board met at the end of the year met once to set the statutory and required budget number on what our growth would be.
So you take full credit for a budget that every Democrat praised and voted for, and 4 conservative Republicans like myself voted against. You take full credit.
Senator, I take credit for a budget that was under inflation and population growth. I take credit for a budget that over the last 10 years is 11% below inflation and population growth. I don't take credit for the fact that $3.4 billion of new money was put into the budget on public education on your insistence and on the Democrats' insistence. I know you're upset that there was 2 programs for about $100 million that didn't go in that were favored of your projects. But at the end of the day, our budgets, as you look over 10 years and for this year, for this biennium, are under inflation and population growth.
Again, every Democrat praised and voted for the budget.
Okay. Next topic, but I will assure you all that this is not the last topic where we're gonna talk about budget issues. So, we'll have some more rounds of those. Okay. This question will be for Commissioner Patterson. And I'm gonna lay this out, and I got about 3 points here that are gonna be important to why I'm asking you this question. Because of your quite vocal and unprecedented stand at the 2012 Republican State Convention in support of something called the Texas Solution, you have been dubbed by some conservatives as Mr. Open Borders. Please explain your position on your immigration reform priorities based on this quote from Stephen McCraw, the director of Texas DPS. So now, let me say again, I'm asking you to reflect upon your immigration policies and priorities based on what I'm going to tell you as a quote from Stephen McCraw. He was quoted in a June 8, 2012 Fort Worth Star-Telegram article entitled, "DFW is now a command and control center for Mexican cartels." Point number 1. Mexican cartels constitute the greatest organized crime threat to the state, per head of DPS. According to the Texas Public Safety Threat Overview that was released by DPS in March of this year, 6 of 8 of the major cartels are operating in Texas. That report also cites the cartel's use of military tactics to push back at Texas law enforcement. Please explain your position on the Texas Solution as it reflects on these specific issues.
It can't be explained. There's absolutely no relation. Let me tell you what my position on the Texas Solution is. It's the same as the overwhelming majority of folks at the Republican Convention in Fort Worth in June of 2012. What my position on immigration is I oppose the amnesty Gang of 8 bill that is in Washington, D.C. right now. I oppose the current system of unqualified birthright citizenship. I oppose the amnesty as a path to legalization, as a path to citizenship. I oppose the continued use of things that enhance and entice people to come here, such as bilingual ballots. I support voter ID, and I support military forces on the border. I support fences where it makes sense. And I support the Texas Solution. To say those two things are related in any manner is completely bogus. But I will also tell you here that at least 3 of the candidates sitting here tonight support that we do not deport 12 million illegal aliens. Todd Staples has said that. Dan Patrick has said that. Jerry Patterson supports the Texas Solution. They also support a guest worker program, which is in the Texas Solution. Todd supports it. Dan supports a guest worker program, and Todd put it best, I believe, when he said he didn't want to live in a state or a country that has the police power to deport 12 million people. What we need is a secure border, and part of that secure border pursuit will be attained by the Texas Solution that was overwhelmingly adopted at the Republican Convention in June of 2012 in Fort Worth after a 2-hour debate. I am proud that I stood up for that. I am proud that I stood up for more border security and the guest worker program as envisioned by at least 2 of my colleagues and in the Texas Solution.
Thank you. Senator Patrick, it's your turn now to ask Commissioner Patterson a question.
Let me clarify something. I did not support your resolution at the convention.
I didn't say you did. I supported you supported the guest worker program, and you support the provision that we do not deport 12 million people. And you said that on the radio.
I only support a guest worker program after we have full or near full employment of American citizens. If American citizens are employed and we have jobs that need to be filled, then we can have a guest worker program. But currently the illegals who are here are taking jobs away from American, particularly entry-level jobs, and it's one of the reasons we have high unemployment. Here's my question for you. You and I were at a forum in Pasadena not long ago, and I made the statement that I am the only person running for lieutenant governor who opposes in-state tuition, and you disagreed. But you told the El Paso newspaper back in February that you opposed in-state tuition for illegals. However,
Senator, it's time.
but here's my question. You wanted to find a way
Is
to
this
find
time
a
up or
legal...
is this time not?
My question is, do you support
Is this time up or is this
in-state
time not?
tuition, or do you want to find a legal way to get illegal students in-state tuition? What is your true position?
I do not support in-state tuition for illegal aliens. I don't understand what your question is. What are you saying?
You told the El Paso Times you wanted to find a legal status so illegal students could get in-state tuition in Texas. Do you stand by your statement?
Let me just say this. No, I do not. I do not support in-state tuition for illegal aliens. What I support is an immigration solution, and then we wouldn't have that problem.
You didn't tell...
I don't know what you mentioned this in Pasadena, and I have yet to see any proof of it.
I
But
will-
what I will
that will be
also
done
tell
tomorrow.
you, Dan, what I'll also tell you is I've looked at the video today of you talking to the Woodlands Tea Party, in which you said that you're opposed to the deportation of 12 million
I am.
illegal aliens. You said that,
I am.
okay? And because it can't be done. That's my position
Correct.
as well. That's Todd's position as well. I don't know about David. And you also said that you support a guest worker program in that same video at the Woodlands Tea Party event. Is that not accurate? Do you support a guest worker program?
Once
Yes, sir.
Americans are employed. I do.
Well, you didn't say that, though.
Well,
Now you're calling-
you know, Commissioner, I'm sorry, and if you're a tape person, it's taping every word I say. And
No, but it's not the only, you've got it in writing. So what I'm saying is, there's really no difference on the position, at least from three of us here.
No,
There's no difference. Where do you differ? Tell me where you differ.
I don't believe that we should find a legal status, which you told the newspaper in El Paso, and I'll be happy to provide the media with your article.
Yeah,
where
please
you
do,
said,
Dan.
I will, where you want to find a legal way so that illegal
This
students
is
can have
kind of
state
a
tuition.
reach.
And no, it's not a reach. You want to find legal status for students who are here illegally so they can get in-state tuition. It's a way of you can say, I'm against it, but I'm for it. And I do
Kind of
not
like the
support...
budget that you voted
and-
for and then voted against.
No, I voted against the budget.
You voted
And I
for
voted
it, came out of
against it.
committee, then you voted against it when you
The
voted.
final vote is
Okay.
the one that counts, Commissioner.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. The last
Okay.
vote was the one who counted.
Okay, the time is up. Now, let me just say this right now. If we don't stick to the topic, then the little fun stuff of going back and forth is gonna go away, and I'm gonna ask all the questions, and that's not gonna be nearly as fun. So now, let me say this again. We're getting way off of making speeches before we ask the question. So let's get to the question. And you all are very smart. You've been politicians a long time. And so you know how to ask a question and ask it really to get to the point. So now, let's ask the questions and get to the point. Now, I'm gonna let Commissioner Staples weigh in here. And then I have a feeling we're going to have to go back over Joanne's original point here because we've lost it in all of this. So, Commissioner Staples, ask a question, please.
Jerry, you have pushed the Texas solution at the convention.
That's correct.
The Texas solution is silent on what to do with the status of citizenship for those that are here.
That's correct.
So, in developing my plan, it's a very specific 6-point immigration reform plan that does not include amnesty. It starts with border security. Put it all in writing, put it in a book. You do have on your website, you oppose amnesty as a path to citizenship. So, we just need clarity because the Texas solution, as it's written today, leaves it unanswered with the big issue that is really derailing, securing our border, stopping the drug cartels because it's been hijacked in Washington that those that want to give away citizenship like cotton candy at a county fair.
Time.
You're absolutely correct.
So
But
where are you on that?
Where you
What do you
err-
mean by that?
Yeah, where you err is you're talking about the Texas solution only. There's a whole lot more immigration language in the Republican Party platform that talks to amnesty. I oppose amnesty, period, categorically, no matter how you cut it, dice it, or slice it.
My question is, in your platform, you say you oppose amnesty as a component of a pathway to citizenship.
I oppose amnesty as a pathway to citizenship.
So what do you mean on your pathway to citizenship? Do you agree that there is a pathway to citizenship? That
Where?
For those that are here on our
No, I do not. No, I do not. Just as you've taken the position, and I admire you when you chaired the Southern Agriculture Association's committee, and you came out with the suggestion and recommendation that we have a guest worker program, and then you later mentioned that you don't believe we should deport 12 million illegal aliens in the U.S. So it's impossible.
That's incorrect, and it was later, and it's much more complex and comprehensive, and has a lot of specificity.
Well, you said, and I quote, I don't want to live in a country that has the police power to deport 12 million people.
That's a wrong quote.
San Antonio Express News.
That's a wrong quote. What the quote is, I don't want to live in a country whose government is big enough that can round up 11 to 20 million people.
Okay,
That's
you
the
don't want to
specific
live in a
quote.
country whose government is big enough. Is that right?
I don't want a government that's big enough to round up 11 to 20.
So I
That's the
take
correct
that to
quote.
mean you oppose the deportation of 12 million illegal aliens because you don't live in a country whose government's big enough. Is that a nuance that's
I'll let you ask me a question when it's my turn. If
No,
you're
no,
trying
no.
to do this right now, I'm really trying to find out what your position is on a pathway to citizenship that's held up in Washington. That's really what
I'm
I'm.
opposed to the gang of eight immigration bill. It's dead on arrival for two major reasons. It has a pathway to citizenship via amnesty, and it is a full employment act for organized labor. For those reasons, and probably others, it should die, and I hope it does. So, and that's very clearly stated.
Time. Governor Dewhurst, would you like to ask Commissioner Patterson a question?
I would. Lest anyone not know where I stand on some of these issues, I'll say this very, very quickly. I categorically oppose a pathway to citizenship because I feel it's not fair. You've got literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are trying to follow the rules, and they've applied, and I think it's unfair to have a pathway to citizenship where people are cutting in line. So I oppose that. I've opposed for years and spoken against it, against in-state tuition for illegal aliens. A late famous philosopher, Sonny Bono, once said, "What's to talk about? It's illegal." All right? It's illegal immigration. Commissioner, I was down on the border on Thursday on gunboats. Isn't the answer to solve these problems to finally secure the border like we're doing right now in Texas with the DPS, with the exercise going on that just finished today, and stop dangerous illegal immigration, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and transnational gangs, as Joanne talked about, that are coming in and operating?
Your question was, should we
use the Texas model
Yes.
that we are demonstrating right
We
now?
should.
Where over the last 3 weeks we have shut down a surge of people coming into Texas by using a model in which we're stopping the illegal immigration at the river
We should do
until
that.
it gets to the cities where we don't have any control.
Well, yes, we should do that, and we should quit creating an inviting environment for folks to come here and break our laws. Of the four of us sitting here, there's only one that voted for in-state tuition for illegal aliens, and that would be Commissioner Staples. And not only that, if you read the book that Commissioner Staples put out, he says that bill passed unanimously. It did not. There were several Republicans who voted against it.
That's not what.
So I agree with you that we need to secure our borders using the DPS as you described, but we also need to start creating an inviting environment, and we shouldn't do things like propose in-state tuition for illegal aliens like Commissioner Staples voted for.
Okay. Perhaps the debate master didn't ask the question right, so let me try again. Sometimes what is left out of a proposal says as much about one's mindset as what's in there. Nowhere in the Texas solution does it address the issue of law enforcement. And the issues that law enforcement has, well, let me just quote Stephen McCraw again. He's executive director of DPS. Mexican cartels constitute the greatest organized crime threat to the state of Texas. And DFW is now, that's Dallas-Fort Worth, is now a command and control center for Mexican cartels. My question is, how did we get here? So let me start this again, and everybody's going to have 30 seconds to answer this, okay? So we're going to start right over here with Commissioner Patterson. We're going to go around. How did we get to this position?
Because the federal government failed to live up to its duty, abdicated its responsibility to secure our borders. That's how we got here.
Okay.
I agree. The federal government has failed horribly to put the people on the border necessary to secure the border. I've been advocating tripling the size of our border patrol, which would secure our border. This phenomena that you're talking about, Joanne, is called transnational gangs. They're the muscle for the cartels, and they're operating in all the cities, including DFW. And it's because the border is porous, contrary to the lies of President Obama, where he says the border is secure. It's not secure.
Senator Patrick?
Very quickly, from 2008 to 2012, folks, we've arrested 141,000 illegal criminals in our state who have been charged with 441,000 crimes, including 2,000 murders and 5,000 rapes. The federal government is not doing its job, but we can't use that as an excuse. It's our job in Texas to secure our border, and one of the reasons I voted against the budget is because this budget, that the Democrats love, cut funding for border security and to fight criminal justice gangs, and that's why I voted against the budget.
That is simply not true, Senator.
That is
true. Simply not true.
You need to go read it.
I've read it.
Trust me, we cut it.
Commissioner Staples?
Thank you. Jerry, you didn't get your facts right on a lot of things, and in fact, on the bill that created in-state tuition was predicated on the assumption that those students would correct their status. That has not been forced, and it should be repealed. And I'm glad to hear you talking about it today. You haven't been for the last 10 years, and Governor Dewhurst and Senator Patrick have been in the Senate. They have not changed that law. I will as Lieutenant Governor. I will tell you that I have used my resources at my agency to fund border security, tangible results in Operation Drawbridge that has resulted in the apprehension of 16,000 illegally individuals entering our nation and the confiscation of 35 tons of narcotics. I will change our status from reactionary to proactive.
Thank you. Time's up. Okay, now, so let's talk about, we're all getting acclimated to each other up here, and everybody's just having a wonderful time. So now, when I say time, that means finish a sentence, don't start another paragraph. Okay? So let's finish the sentence and let's get down to it. Now, I still want to go around one more time. Because the people of Texas, I'm going to have to make an editorial comment here. The people of Texas are sick and tired of state officials pointing to the federal government and telling us over and over what's wrong.
Amen.
So, I'm going to give you all one chance. We're going to start over here with Commissioner Staples, and I want everybody on this panel to give us a definition of the interior enforcement of the rule of law in 30 seconds, Mr. Rivera.
You're going to have to give more than 30 seconds, Joanne. If
No.
you want to talk about something that is... If you want to talk about how to secure our nation, how to stop 1 million people from coming in illegally, we're going to need more than 30 seconds to do that. Lives are being lost. Landowners are being chased off their property. So can we go a minute at least to
At the
secure our...
end, we may go a minute, but I just want a simple, there is a way to define this. Okay, I'm going to lead the witnesses here, y'all. I'm going to lead the witnesses. Reflect upon your oath of office. Reflect upon what the definition of interior is and what the definition of rule of law is, and I know you guys can do it in 30 seconds. Start again. Start again, Commissioner. I know you got it in you.
I've taken an oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution at different levels, and that's what it's really about, is defending these constitutional principles. We can do that as a state of Texas. We do not have to wait on the federal government. That's why I developed a 6-point specific plan that starts with border security. You can use low cost, high tech to have a big impact. We are a reactionary force today. We need to be proactive in developing that strategy.
See that? Okay, Senator Patrick, define interior enforcement of the rule of law.
Well, there's a lot of things we can do. I too took an oath. I took an oath as a Marine to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I took an oath as state senator. Land commissioner. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of unconditional birthright citizenship.
You know what, crowd? Nobody told you my background. You would not believe the number of big committees I've chaired before, and they were worse than this. So now I'm very, very patient. So now let me go get Senator Patrick. Define the interior enforcement of the rule of law, please.
As I said in my opening, as I said here again, we cannot blame this. We've had our local elected and state officials too long blaming the federal government. It's our job to protect the interior of the state of Texas. It is their job to protect the border of the United States with Mexico. And that's why, again, I opposed our budget. We cut funding to protect our border. We cut funding to fight criminal gangs. As Lieutenant Governor, that will be the #1 priority, because that we must do to protect the state of Texas. That's our job. There are no excuses.
Okay. Continue, Governor.
Thank you. I also took an oath of office, both as an officer in the United States Air Force and as Lieutenant Governor, to defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. We need to secure our border, Joanne, and keep people out, gangs and narcotics. And I prefer having that line at the river and not in the cities where people can get lost and it's hard to find them. At the same time, the rule of law in the interior. We need to enforce all of our laws in every part of our state, every city, including sanctuary cities, which we passed out of the Senate in June of 2011.
Time, Governor, time. Okay. We'll move on to a different topic. This one will be just as fun. Okay. And this one is going to start with Senator Patrick. Senator Patrick, I'm going to lay out 3 facts here. And remember, I'm not supposed to be engaging in the debate, so nobody try that. 3 facts here. This has to do with our fiscal state of affairs. Number 1, the fact that state appropriations increased significantly from 2011 to 2013 is beyond dispute. And I'm going to refer here in this question to session spending. That's an important distinction there, everybody. Session to session spending, not budget to budget.
What was it?
In the 80s, what I'm laying out here is the session to session spending. I'm laying this out for Senator Patrick, and y'all are going to get to do a redirect on that with him. Okay. Session to session spending from the 82nd legislative session through the 83rd went up $20 billion. That's GR plus the rainy day fund. That was a 24% increase in session to session spending. Point number 2. According to the Tax Foundation, Texas is 11th in the nation in reliance on federal aid. Point number 3. Texas leads the nation in road debt. In fact, state debt has grown 125% over the last 10 years. Senator Patrick, what do these three facts mean to Texas, and how do you plan to deal with those facts if you should be elected Lieutenant Governor?
Great question. What it means is that we have not been disciplined in the budget process. And I will go back to a point I made earlier, when liberal Democrats, who are 1/3 of the Senate, have a large say in everything that is done. We cannot lead as the conservatives that you have elected. Our founding fathers said a 1/3 never have control over 2/3, or you have tyranny of the minority. So what happens in the budget process is the Democrats are able to shape the budget, as they did this session, when in order to get their votes, we gave away a $500 million from the System Benefit Fund to several 100,000 Texans in just one check. We gave away $500 million in a great wealth redistribution. The point is, Joanne, that we have not been disciplined to pay as you go, for example, on a number of projects, and that's why we have so much debt. We have not been disciplined to end the diversions in the budget. We have not been disciplined to make sure that in our general budget, we focus on water needs, we focus on transportation needs. We leave so much out of the budget process because Democrats have too much influence. So one of the things that I will do, Joanne, there will not be 50% of the Legislative Budget Board controlled by liberal Democrats. It's just unacceptable. Secondly, I will work with the senators. It's a Senate rule on the 21 vote rule. Those of you who know me know I've been fighting for this. I ran on this when I ran for office. And on the first day on the Senate floor, when freshmen aren't supposed to speak, I fought that rule and I lost 30-1. That's okay. I stood on principle, and today we have 10 senators ready to change that rule. It should be 19 to mirror the cloture vote of the U.S. Senate, 60%. It just so happens we have 19 Republicans. I think we'll have 20 now that Wendy is running for governor and will win that seat. But we should not allow the Democrats to control the process. Again, we passed a budget this session that 4 conservatives like myself voted against at the end of the day after the full process, but every Democrat voted for and praised. So how do we fix it? We focus on pay-as-you-go, we reduce our debt, we end the diversions, we don't let the Democrats shape their budget, and we follow conservative principles. We get rid of programs like the Enterprise Fund, like the Emerging Fund, like the Major Events Fund. And by the way, in 2011, we were wrong. Brian Birdwell and I did have an amendment to end in-state tuition. I just want to correct the record.
Well, there's no correction needed because I didn't say you didn't try, I said you didn't do it.
Okay, time.
Well, you know what?
Time.
2 of us stood on principle and tried.
Hey,
You didn't.
you too.
That's wrong, Dan.
Wait a minute, wait. Now, Commissioner Staples, you will have a chance to go with Senator Patrick here in just a little bit. We have to remember what we were taught. You have to wait your turn. Just wait your turn. Okay, it's gonna be Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst. Now, Lieutenant Governor, based on the 3 facts that I laid out here, and I was talking about session-to-session spending. I was talking about the fact that Texas is 11th in the nation in reliance on federal aid. And Texas leads the nation in road debt, and by the way, state debt has grown 125% in the last 10 years. So, Lieutenant Governor, based on what Senator Patrick said, please ask him a question.
You sort of put me in a narrow road here. Senator, do you agree or disagree with the 3 statements that I'm going to ask you about on these 3 elements? One, that the $20 billion that Joanne is talking about are Medicaid expenditures, which we told people we were going to delay in 2011 in order to get reforms on Medicaid, and which we were able to reform and get savings of some $2 billion. And so the Legislative Budget Board allocated for the 2011 session, the 12 and 13 cost, and for 2013, I don't want to confuse people, this biennium's cost. A. B, I had never heard that statistic. I'm going to go back and take a look at it on the 11th in the nation. The state of Texas in 2009 was
Time to Governor.
received.
So based on what he was able to ask you, Dan, please reply.
Well, that's, Governor, I agree with her statement of the spending increase session to session. That's why the Wall Street Journal said Texas is going California. We increase, all the people out here care about is how much money did we spend then and how much money are we spending now. No matter how you want to color code it, how you want to categorize it, it's their money. And when
So
they
Amen.
that's all that counts.
So do you agree or disagree that when you look at the last 10-year period, our spending has been the lowest as a percentage of growth of any other state in the country?
That's not the
It's
question.
been 11.5% below inflation and population growth.
That's not
Do you agree with that?
I cannot compare it to the other 49 states, so I don't have that fact.
Well, do you agree that it's been 11.5% below inflation and population growth for the last 10 years?
Well, it depends on how you want to calculate that number.
No, I'm just looking at, no, you just look at the
No, Governor,
10 years and then today.
Yes, well, and you know how you get to that number? When you go out and borrow $20 and $30 billion so you get under that level. We have to stop that. You're playing with numbers.
What, would you say Texas is one of the 20 most frugal on debt, 10 most frugal? What would you say?
Governor,
We're one of the
Governor,
five.
I
We're
think,
45th.
okay. I think we are a frugal state. But it is so easy to go off the path. And this past session, we started to go off the path. We're going off the path on debt. I do not want Texas to be California. And we have to be disciplined in every dollar we spend. We were not disciplined. Commissioner Patterson was right. I was the only senator in finance who voted to save the rainy day fund in 2011. I was the only senator in finance who voted to stop the $25 million for the F1. You supported all those issues. We have to be disciplined. It's their money.
Senator, time.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Davis, you get to now ask Senator Patrick a question.
Senator, you just said you're the only senator that voted to save the rainy day fund. You do a really good job of creating the impression that you're watching the spending. And Texans expect that. Texans expect people to cut their spending and to hold it tight to the vest. And yet you voted to empty the rainy day fund earlier in the session and spend $6 billion that would have essentially wiped out the rainy day fund for several different purposes. But then here tonight, you're critical of the budget, you're talking a big game on the budget process, but you yourself voted for a $6 billion expenditure out of the rainy day fund. So I'm trying to recognize that in light of authentic conservative leadership and how that balances out. Because I just like that to reconcile.
The people, and I appreciate this is an interesting format. And by the way, I didn't mean to point, I apologize. But I just wanted to be sure people knew that Senator Birdwell and I did try to end state tuition. We lost, but we tried. We're the only two that have tried in 10 years. I have received constantly from every conservative rating group who looks at all of our budget votes. I've gotten an A+ from Americans Prosperity. I've gotten only one of 3 senators to get an A rating from Empower Texas for my fiscal record. So I don't apologize. I've been very strong in that. In the 2011 session, I was correct when I was the only Republican on finance to vote against the rainy day fund. I rallied the troops on the floor, and we saved the rainy day fund in 2011, and the Tea Party advisory board knows that because they watched that fight. This year, we had money that in the rainy day fund to pay the bills that were not paid from the last session, and everyone voted on that. That was not taking, that's what the rainy day fund is for, to pay the bills that we don't have the money for. But at the end of the session, when it came down to our new transportation bill, I was the one who led the floor fight to make sure we always had a minimum of a $6 billion floor in the rainy day fund.
The expenditures last session, though, were some of the same that you voted for this session out of the rainy day fund. So that's kind of an inconsistent statement. It really is, because the session before that, it was some of those same issues that you voted for this session. And so it's just an inconsistency that I see there. It's good to rail about these things, and we do need to be fiscal conservatives, but we need to be consistent if we're doing it.
Commissioner, all I can say is the watchdog, fiscal hawk, conservative groups that watch everything we do, I'm the only senator that can consistently get an A rating on my vote to protect taxpayer dollars session after session after session after session. I stand on my record.
Okay. Commissioner Patterson, would you like to ask Senator Patrick a question based on, do you want me to go over the points again? Because I understand it's,
I think I know where we started,
okay.
and there was some comment about changing the budgetary process and changing the makeup of the Senate as a method to achieve a conservative objective. And my question then to you is, I have heard at various times, and I've had described to me by several of the senators, that your position on the number of Democrat chairs in the Senate has been none. Then I've heard fewer than what Governor Dewhurst has appointed. Then I saw the Texas Tribune, it was 0, maybe 1 or 2. There are 18 committees. Yes. There are 6 chaired by Democrats. So I want to know what the real number is, and I would ask you this. If you're so conservative and you're so focused on Republican control and the hardworking folks out here that got us elected, why not 0?
What I said in the Tribune, and I'm the only person running for lieutenant governor who has even broached this subject. No one even wants to talk about it.
Let's be specific.
Well, here's what I said. Evan Smith asked me the question, and as you know, ethically, we have to be very careful in running for office, talking about certain issues. But in broad terms, here's exactly what I told Evan, and this is what I'll say to the crowd tonight: that as lieutenant governor, when day 1 comes, every chairmanship is open. I will find the best qualified person to be chairman.
I just kind of want the number.
Excuse me, let me finish.
Just
I will find the best person. I will find the best person, and one of those qualifications will be conservative. And what I said to Evan, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 0. But if you're asking me to sit here tonight and say I'm not appointing,
but you're going to have Democrat chairs, is what you're saying. You're not going to exclude Democrat chairs,
Commissioner. It could well be that there are not any Democrat chairs. I'll make that decision as lieutenant governor.
Now, I would ask you this. When we talk about money, we're talking about being fiscally conservative.
2 questions.
We're talking about money, talking about fiscal conservative. Yes. Can you give me one agency or that you would substantially reduce in size or maybe eliminate?
Yeah. Well, in the session before last, we did cut by about 1/3 the number of employees of Texas Education Agency.
And TDA as well, I think.
And I would eliminate it's not an agency per se, but I would eliminate the enterprise fund, the emerging fund, and you brought up the major events trust fund earlier. Senator Bob Bull and I passed legislation to address that issue this session, reform it. I think it should go away. So those would be the first 3 right there.
But those aren't really agencies.
I said they're not really agencies.
Yeah. They're methods of expenditure. Those dollars.
We need to continue to reduce the TEA, and we need to reduce the 56,000.
What about the educational service centers? Now, it's my understanding that, that was supposed to come up for sunset in the next session, but you arranged to delay the ESC sunset?
I did not arrange that.
Well, that's what I understand.
Well, you understand it correctly.
Gentlemen.
We'll talk about it later.
Well, I'm happy to talk about it.
You know what? Y'all are going to get to do this again with me in Tyler on October 12th. So y'all just, see, y'all had some notes up here. I don't know, did y'all tell them they couldn't have note paper? Because see, if they had notes, everybody could be making notes, and you could save some of these great comments you got for each other for October 12th. Okay. American laws for American courts. This question is going to go to Commissioner Staples. Commissioner Staples, for the last 2 legislative sessions, bills have been filed, and I'm going to be specific to the Senate right now. Bills have been filed to address American laws for American courts. And this year, there were nationally recognized witnesses that were offered to come address the Texas Senate on this issue. That just didn't happen. I need to know from you, if you were elected lieutenant governor.
What didn't happen, Joanne?
said there were
The national witnesses that wanted to speak about this issue because the bill got stuck and never was brought to the floor of the Senate.